Hurricane Beryl. It's a Category 2 hurricane and it's approaching the Cozumel Island and Yucatan Peninsula as well in Mexico. Position 19.8 degrees north, 85.1 degrees west, and looks like it's maybe trying to intensify again before it makes landfall early tomorrow by Friday. So it's going to be a really bad scenario for people there in Cozumel, in Tulum, Quintana Roo and Cancun and many cities nearby those places. So it's going to be a rough time for there. Beryl it's not done yet, unfortunately, and still battling the adverse conditions in the atmosphere. Despite weakening, still has some strength with winds of 110 miles per hour sustained and a pressure of 965 millibars since the drop zone and the Recon flights currently are over the storm. Detected a pressure of 962 millibars extrapolated. So that means that Beryl could have started to intensify again, so we can't rule out that maybe it could intensify into a Category 3 hurricane again before it makes landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula, possibly over the city of Tulum. This is a Category 2 hurricane so far, moving to the west-northwest at 20 miles per hour. This is latest at 20 hours local time in Tulum, Mexico, which is 1 hour or 1 o'clock in the Universal Central Time on July the 4th here in Mexico. And this is what I was talking about, since the National Hurricane Center is predicting a Category 2 landfall so far, but the drop zone and the Recon Flight have found a lower pressure of 962 extrapolated. So this is the first indication that possible re-strengthening is occurring, and so it could be a possibility that major hurricane status could be again on the table, and possible Category 3 landfall as well. But officially it's a Category 2 landfall, and then weakening rapidly to a tropical storm, re-emerging the ocean into the Gulf of Mexico, and strengthening gradually into a Category 1 hurricane, and possibly making landfall in the state of Tamaulipas and nearby the border with Texas, and then weakening back to a tropical storm and finally dissipating after a long period of how many days have been this hurricane active, at least a week so far. A really intense hurricane, historical as well, and then finally dissipating possibly by the next week, possibly still 1 week ahead. So it's really a stubborn system so far. And well, personally I'm in the cone of uncertainty in the northeastern part of Mexico, so let's see what happens as well in my region with Beryl. But well, so far it's looking really rough for the people in the Yucatan Peninsula so far. Located about 235 kilometers to the east southeast of Cozumel, where it's approximately it's the island before the city of Cancun and Playa del Carmen, which is 269 kilometers to the east southeast. Tulum, 290 kilometers to the east southeast. This is the main region or the main city where it's expected to make landfall. Tulum is a very touristic place and could be a lot of people, could be a really high populated area. So let's see what happens. Hopefully all the people there are following the instructions, since evacuations have been ordered today in the morning. Cancun, 282 kilometers to the southeast, and 530 kilometers to the east southeast of the city of Mérida in the western coast of Mexico. The western coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, and this is the wind shear levels. The wind shear has been decreasing in the southern quadrants, but still high wind shear levels ahead of Beryl, at least until making landfall in the Yucatan Peninsula. Then the wind shear is going to remain quite low to moderate in the Gulf of Mexico, and this could be Beryl could take advantage of that and intensify furthermore before making landfall again in Tamaulipas, possibly by the next 4 or 5 days, depending on how fast this thing moves. And the sea surface temperatures now 28 to 29 Celsius. Beryl, it's completely on a favorable oceanic conditions to intensify and to support that hurricane intensity. And as you've seen on the satellite imagery, it looks like Beryl it's intensifying, and actually actually today looks even better than it was yesterday when it was a category 4 hurricane. That's a really strange situation or scenario, but that's the data that we found on the Recon data that we seen during the missions. The remaining of the Atlantic Ocean, 28-29 Celsius overall, so Beryl has everything to intensify and to be a really intense hurricane ahead of the Yucatan Peninsula, and also a really significant hurricane in the state of Tamaulipas, possibly a category 1 hurricane at least, depending on how fast it moves and how well it takes how good it takes the conditions in the atmosphere as well to intensify furthermore. And the rainfall accumulations in the future, we are going to expect approximately 15 to 20 millimeters of rain per hour nearby the places where Beryl is going to make landfall, and possibly this kind of rainfall could last at least 6 to 8 hours depending on the movement of the storm. But since this hurricane is a small sized system and moving quite fast, possibly the rainfall accumulations could be approximately 5 to 7 inches. In some places could be more or could be less, but approximately, or the average of rainfall possibly is going to be around 5 to 7 inches. So it's going to be a really rough situation. The winds and the potential destruction, even though as well the storm surge, the flash flooding as well. So hopefully it won't cause a lot of destruction there. Today in the early hours of tomorrow in the early hours of Friday. And this is the graphics in the GFS model predicting the future of what it's going to happen possibly with Beryl. And other models are predicting that it's going to shift more to the north, making landfall nearby Texas, or possibly stalling a little bit before making landfall in Texas. So I don't know, it's really difficult to say the future of the storm until it crosses the Yucatan Peninsula. So since then we are going to have a really more precise projection or forecast about the track that it will take in the nearby future. But so far we are placing, or we believe that it's going to make landfall in the northeastern tip of the state of Tamaulipas in Mexico, and then dissipating over Texas. And the different model diagnostics, as you can see, lots of models having Beryl as a category 2 or even a category 3 hurricane, of course losing strength quite quickly as it makes landfall tomorrow in the early hours, and then gradually maintaining the intensity or even intensifying a little bit before making another landfall in Mexico possibly, and then finally dissipating after several days alive. The wind shear is decreasing, so that's good news for Beryl, not good news for us. So let's see what happens. So far Beryl, it's having not that kind of wind shear that we expected, since it has been decreasing in the last few hours, at least in the southern quadrant so far. But ahead of Beryl in the northern quadrants, in the northwestern quadrant, the wind shear is quite high still, so possibly could prevent the system to get that much stronger. But as we've seen in the satellite imagery, it looks really healthy. The ice appearing as well. So let's see what happens. But the sea surface temperatures 29 Celsius overall, and the humidity quite low. Dry air also, it's over Beryl, but really hasn't been affecting the system that much as we expected as well. And of course the humidity is expected to increase when it gets when it crosses the Yucatan Peninsula and emerges in the Gulf of Mexico. But still the humidity levels not that high as usually expect during an intense hurricane right now. And this is the satellite presentations of Beryl. Looking good, looking healthy. The western quadrants, as you can see, a lot of wind shear. This is also a reason of why a lot of thunderstorms have emerged over the Yucatan Peninsula. Nothing really to do with Beryl, to be honest. So yeah, this is a really impressive, the thunderstorms forming in the whole Yucatan Peninsula, but as well Beryl looking healthy, looking fine. Lots of convection still affecting the Cayman Islands as well as the western tip of Cuba, with some thunderstorms arriving in the islands in the southern tip of Cuba as well. And those floaters, those imageries and everything, you can find them on Force 13 website, and please stay updated with more, since we are going to run more videos and more streams, since we are going to prepare for the landfall of Beryl in the next hours, early tomorrow, Friday. That's all for today.
Become an ultimate fan today.